What's up everyone, Lion Roar here, and we have a brand new clan in Bloodline Heroes of Lithis. It is the Polar Bear clan, also called the BJÖRNKRIGER clan. So of course, I'm going to do a full breakdown. We'll take a look at the trait, the skills, and try to decide which one's going to be better, the male or the female, or both. But first, download Bloodline Heroes of Lithis, a mobile RPG action fighting game where you can marry your champions to create new and unique hybrids. Use the link in the description to start with some free stuff, including gold and diamonds. See you hopefully soon. So let's go ahead and, as usual, we'll start with the clan trait, and note that I just got this out of the clan challenge, so it is an epic hero, meaning this is only a level 8 trait and the numbers are going to be higher depending on the rarity. But it is called Cold Snap, and it reduces the attacker's constitution recovery by some percent. On this one it's 7.3% or higher for 3 seconds, stacking up to 3 times when taking damage. So this is a really interesting clan trait, and it seems like Bloodline has been going all out in the last several clan releases to really do something about the amount of healing that occurs, especially with male water and sun, but also like the Galabars, they gain a lot of health, and there's a few others as well, like the Bloodcraft champions sometimes do that depending on how you build them. But it can be very difficult to beat a team that's on defense whenever there's so much healing going on. So here we have an effort to do that, and we're going to see with the special skills that these heroes have, they're also doubling down on that. However, what I will say about this is they haven't yet seemed to find a good formula for actually reducing healing, but this is a start. Do I think it's a clan trait worth chasing? Like, it's a good clan trait. I don't know if I want to chase it though. The BJÖRNKRIGER clan are warriors, of which we do not have a lot of good ones in Bloodline Heroes of Lithis. However, relatively recently we did get the Almat clan, and they are great. Both the male and the female, which are warriors, do an excellent job in multiple game modes. So let's see if they can keep the momentum going with the Polar Bears. I'm going to start with the passive on the male because that's usually the first thing that affects the battlefield. Freezing Aura. A frozen zone forms on the battlefield, inflicting enemies in it with 1 layer of shiver per second. At 6 layers, the enemy will be frozen for 3 seconds. So it takes 6 seconds to get to that point where they get frozen for 3 seconds. And their damage taken increasing by 40%. That's pretty good, actually. Whenever the affected enemy casts an ultimate, all shiver layers will be removed. Leaving the frozen zone for 3 seconds also removes the shiver effect. So it is a zone, and of course how good it's going to be depends on how big the zone is. It does seem to me like that's a great pairing with the female Tide Raiser, who I seem to talk about in all these videos because they've just been churning out these heroes that have some zone or area of effect on the battlefield that you want to kind of gather all the opponents into. So this is one where you want to put like him in the front and actually female Tide Raiser behind him and pull the opponents into that particular effect. However, what I will say about this is I'm afraid that the acquisition of the shiver layers may be too slow, and if they happen to travel outside of it and they're not getting it, or if they're outside of it too long and then it even resets, it feels slow to me. But it is only the passive, so let's see what the active says. Tundra Tremor charges up and strikes forward, dealing damage equal to 520% of the caster's strength, launching the target airborne while leaving a frozen zone behind for 6 seconds. So 520% is a lot of damage for just the active skill, not even the ultimate. This is also a type of CC, like sending targets airborne is another type of freeze or stun, or all the dozens of ways they have it, like pausing enemies, silencing them, you know, that kind of stuff. Basically the opponent just can't do anything for a little bit while they're in the air. It does leave a frozen zone behind, so you know, that's interesting. There's not a lot of text here, but basically dealing a lot of damage, a little bit of CC. Relatively vanilla, nothing too exciting there. Let's see what the ultimate says. BJÖRNKRIGER's Shattered Glacier swings the great sword, dealing damage to all enemies in a fan-shaped area in front equal to 300% of the caster's strength, knocking them back. I have to say before I go on, that knocking them back thing is a thing we see on a number of heroes, and every time it happens, it looks spectacular on the battlefield. But I personally don't think that it does as much as it looks like it does. Like, it's just creating a lot more aesthetically on the battlefield, but I'm not sure functionally it's doing much unless you are very strategic with what you're doing with that kind of battlefield movement. If you're knocking them back into a zone, for example, that could be good. But I already described, you kind of want to maybe actually pull your opponents into the zone, not push them away. And in that case, he does have some anti-synergy with female Tideraiser. If she's pulling and he's pushing, then what's the point, right? Anyway, going on. The caster then leaps forward, dealing damage to all enemies within a large area equal to 400% of the caster's strength, enhancing the frozen zone for 8 seconds. When the enemies in the frozen zone suffer from immobilizing control effects, the duration is increased by 60%. So we have another hero here, a warrior, area of effect, not everybody area of effect, but zone area of effect that's dealing damage and doing control. At its basic, that's what he's doing. And I do think my judgment of him is, that's pretty basic. We have a lot of heroes already that do a lot of these same things. You do have to be careful with the special because of the movement around the battlefield that's happening here. There can be anti-synergies that's undoing other synergies that you have going on. So you want to complement synergies, not go against what you're already trying to do with them. Now, as far as traits go, since he is relatively a vanilla type of hero, the traits that you would want to put on him are relatively vanilla too. So the ones you usually do, you probably want to go with strength for sure, because that's how he's dealing damage. If he's a warrior and he's up front and he's getting hit a lot, you probably want something like honorable to protect him. But then there's other things you can go for too. I mean, as you know, in the Bulko meta, you may need pure heart. Maybe you can't even put honorable on him because you want his ultimate to go off. So you might have to go with pure heart on that one. If you don't really care about the ultimate going off within the first 10 seconds of the match, then you can forego pure heart. That's entirely up to you. But regardless, like if you go with pure heart, you can still go with focused to increase the energy gain rate to make sure that that is going off. So otherwise, you know, if you don't have pure heart and you have a lot of Bulko, then there's no point in going with focused. So there's a few choices as far as those go. I do like to put the Corbett trait on heroes that do a lot of damage, just to get that extra bit of crit damage out of them. So that's something that I would consider for him too, although I'm not sure how much damage he's going to do. I'd really have to see him in action, and I'm going to have to test him to see if that's a trait I want. But if I like the damage output, then that's definitely something that I would consider. Now let's take a look at the female. We're going to take a look at the passive first. Chilling Aura. Constantly emits chill in combat. Enemies imbued by chill will have their fortitude reduced by 100%, of which 100% will convert to the champion's fortitude. Now, we don't typically see a lot of specials around fortitude, so this is kind of new and fresh. But how good is it? I don't know. Fortitude's not the most impactful thing in the game. It's not something I even really put a whole lot of thought into, but this is also the first time we've gotten a hero like this where so much of the fortitude is being affected. And it might actually open our eyes a little bit. We'll have to see, but if you can strip your opponent's fortitude and then increase hers, if that seems to have a big effect, maybe fortitude is actually something we should be paying attention to more in the game. But as of right now, I believe something like the honorable trait, which prevents damage, is usually more impactful than something like fortitude. But this is just the first half of the passive. Let's keep going. If there are multiple enemies nearby, the fortitude gains can stack. When an enemy leaves the chill range, the effect expires immediately. All right, so that's just a very defensive type of passive. Tundra Smite. Pulls a random enemy outside the chill range to the caster and slashes all enemies in front, dealing damage equal to 480% of the caster's strength, reducing their damage dealt by 25% for 4 seconds. Again, another very... there's a very defensive part of this, but it's also kind of offensive, pulling the enemy towards you and then slashing. But interesting that we have two skills here that are leaning somewhat defensive, even if there are offensive pieces to this. If no enemy is outside the chill range, the caster will slash forward immediately. Interesting. Okay. BJÖRNKRIGER's Ice Storm swings the pole axe in place to continuously attack nearby enemies, another area of effect, dealing damage and interrupting the enemy's action once per 0.5 seconds. Let's get back to that. And total damage equal to 900% of the caster's strength over 3 seconds. Okay, yeah, let's talk about that 0.5 seconds thing for a moment. I don't know if, as you were reading over that the first time, it really sunk in, but that's a lot of control, actually. Like every 0.5 seconds, you know, if a second is 1 Mississippi, then you're getting this interruption every like 1 misses, 2 misses, 3 misses, 4 misses, 5 misses, 6 misses. Like that's pretty rapid. That's pretty rapid control. And then that's a lot of damage at 900% of the caster's strength. There's a few things I like here, and I do like that the Constitution recovery is reduced by 40%. I wish this effect could be spread out a little bit more, but this is a really great start in trying to control what I was talking about earlier with like the Galabar and the Male Water and Sun heal that's going on. 40% is a big amount. I still think, along with the trait, which makes it even better that you got 2 effects going on here, but along with the trait, even so, I think we're still going to see a Male Water and Sun meta. Like, it is just so hard. We have had the effect before of preventing healing like that, and still, Male Water and Sun can just take over a match. And sometimes the Galabars are just impossible to kill. And I don't think that they've released a clan yet where they have really been able to dent that meta. And I don't think this clan is going to do it either. This clan does come with a mask challenge. So if you're looking for a mask, it increases crit rate, which is good. That's interesting. If you have big damage dealing teams that you're trying to increase the crit rate on. So the mask might be worth it to go after it and level it up and test it and see how good it is. I'm going to tell you right now, these are not champions that I'm chasing. And maybe I'll have one leveled up to be able to test with because maybe I want the mask. But I do not see a place for this at this moment in time in my top team or even my tier 2 team. But maybe on my 3rd team. And you know what? If the female is pretty good, like I think she could be pretty good, she could find a place into those rosters. But I think it is going to take some testing for me. I don't think there's much mystery to what's happening in her special. It's a lot of stuff that we've seen before, just kind of put together in a different way. But I do think the female is going to be better than the male. I think the male is fine. And certainly as they release heroes, there's going to be power creep. So he's better than a lot of heroes that have already been released. But I think she's even better. My opinion is I don't think that they match up yet to the level that the Almuts are on, because that's an absolutely fabulous warrior clan. But since there's also not a lot of great warriors in Bloodline Heroes of Lithis, I think this is a clan that's worth leveling one up. And definitely seeing how it's going, because you do have challenges where you have to be able to fit a warrior in. So maybe you don't have the Almat clan and this would be a good one to go after. Or maybe there's times where you want to have 2 warriors for whatever reason. Maybe it's the Luxus tournament or Sails and Sabers or something where you'd prefer to have more than 1 or no warriors. So yeah, I am going to be summoning and I would like to get the mask and I would like to test them out. And we'll just have to see how it goes. As far as traits go, I would probably do the same ones for her that I would do for the male. So everything I mentioned for that, I'm just going to stick with here. It could take some tweaking and playing around with that, but the traits that you go with right now are pretty standardized whenever you get these like damage dealing control types of champs. Okay, well, that's just my thoughts. It is just speculation because this is the first day of their release. It's actually going on 24 hours now since they have been released. And so I'm sure people are leveling them up and starting to play with them and see how they are. Let me know in the comments what you think. If you enjoy videos like this, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification. And I will catch you in the next one.